The second day of the 9th International Seminar of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, is underway in Vienna, Austria. While Palestinian resistance fighters and Israeli delegates are attending negotiations in Qatar to secure a ceasefire and the release of hostages, Zionists are continuing to massacre desperate Palestinians who are coming to humanitarian aid stations in search of food. And Argentine experts are warning of the potential loss of over 430,000 jobs following the national government's announcement of the opening of imports. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos. I'm from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The information at this moment, we go live first to Vienna as the second day of the OPEC 9th International Seminar is underway. Our colleague Jorge Gestoso is right there on the venue, ready to share us the latest details. Hello, Jorge. What can you tell us about the progress of this second day?
Belém, here at Vienna, the 9th International Seminar of OPEC, it just finished. They are the very last round of applauses to celebrate the end of a successful seminar, a seminar in which in this second day has presented a book, this book from OPEC, and the title, as you can see, they say the World Oil Outlook 2050, and the outlook is very important for the rest of the world. They believe that the production and the demand of oil will continue to increase up to 2050 from 103,000 barrels a day to 123,000 barrels a day, and that increase is going to come from countries outside of the OPEC, like India, countries in Africa and the Middle East. The consumption is going to come from the global south, mostly for energy regarding petrochemical activities, industries, and aviation. They say that there's not top for the increase of petrol. And what is also interesting that they forecast the background and the layback from the two types of energies. They're talking about that the breakdown could be in 2050 about 14% of renewable energies in total, and 53%, very much a huge amount, 53% of the total consumption of energy is going to still be of petrol and gas. The investments that they believe that is going to be needed by the year 2050 is going to be $17 billion, a huge amount compared to the $2.2 billion that is taking place as of now. And also, they believe that it's going to be very stable, very equilibrated, very balanced, the synergy between renewable forces and the oil markets. So there is optimistic, and there is clearly the sensation that the OPEC is working at the end of this seminar in conjunction with each of these members, and they're going to continue to plan in that way. We get back to you, Belén.
Thank you so much, Jorge. We will be sure to have more on this OPEC seminar throughout the day. That was Jorge Gestoso coming live from Vienna, Austria. And now we continue with more information. As in Venezuela, the government is making progress on health projects. President Nicolás Maduro inaugurated the renovated General University Hospital of Higueronote in Miranda State. He stated that this initiative is a crucial step forward in consolidating a solid public health network that is accessible and equipped with the necessary resources to treat citizens with humanity and efficiency.
It is estimated that 1,000 to 150 patients will be assisted per month. It's quite a figure, isn't it? There, in Timit's 18,179 inhabitants and 4,545 families have been enjoying of health services such as general medicine, intensive care units, admission to hospitals, endoscopies, life support, labs, 24/7 emergency care centers, immunization, x-rays. Besides, they will have 5 doctors and nurses. There are 6 Cuban collaborators, our Cuban siblings, to social promoters, and 6 workers.
We continue in Venezuela as a new flight of the Back to the Homeland plan arrived at the Simón Bolívar International Airport from the United States with 203 migrants. A new flight of this government plan landed in Venezuela with 154 men and 49 women who returned to the country from the United States with a stop in Honduras. The nationals were received by the authorities at the Simón Bolívar International Airport in Maiquetía, La Guaira State. Through the flights of the Great Mission Back to the Homeland, more than 5,000 Venezuelans have returned to the country in a unique effort of the government to return the migrant population in a dignified and safe manner. Meanwhile, on Wednesday, Cardinal Gregorio Chavez of El Salvador asked President Nayib Bukele to share information about the conditions and current situation of the 252 Venezuelan citizens being held in Salvadoran prisons, also known as concentration camps. Chavez stated so during the presentation with the coordinating team of the 8th Camino de San Oscar Romero pilgrimage. The Catholic authorities confirmed that persons deprived of freedom have the constitutional right to communicate with their relatives and the right to legitimate self-defense. However, the Venezuelans kidnapped in an illicit agreement between Washington and San Salvador since March of this year have not been able to be contacted by their families, lawyers, or Salvadoran or Venezuelan human rights organizations.
Detainees have the right to minimum stuff set by international law. Their families should know where they are and how they are. Authorities must provide such information for their families. Therefore, we shout this out with all our strength because it is an inequality. The fact that such situation could not be changed.
We go now to Cuba as on Wednesday, high-ranking government officials announced an update to the national list of individuals and organizations with ties to terrorism. The list was first issued on December 7th of 2023 in accordance with 19 international anti-terrorism conventions. It was updated after a thorough criminal investigation. Through this list, the country demonstrates its commitment to collaborating in the fight against this serious crime, both multilaterally and bilaterally as well. At a press conference, the authorities announced that they had delivered a letter containing this information to the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, and high-ranking officials also noted the United States' lack of response to initiatives to combat terrorism. Now we have a short break coming up, but first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. We continue with more information. South Korea's former president Yoon Suk-yeol has been arrested for a second time as part of the ongoing investigation into his declaration of martial law last year. The arrest happened after the Seoul Central District Court approved a warrant authorizing his detention on Thursday morning, citing concerns that he may destroy evidence. This way, Yoon returned to the capital city's detention center, where he spent 52 days earlier in the year before being released in March on technical grounds. The 64-year-old politician is on trial for insurrection after plunging the country into a political crisis when he sought to subvert civilian government on December 3rd of 2024 by sending armed soldiers to parliament in a bid to prevent lawmakers from voting down his declaration of martial law. And we go now to the ongoing genocide in the Middle East as the Israeli regime continues massacring desperate Palestinians who are coming to humanitarian aid stations in search of food. On Thursday morning, genocidal troops killed 22 people, including 10 children and 3 women, while strafing a food distribution center in Deir al-Balah. Israeli fighters bombed the site where nutritional supplements for children were being distributed. They also attacked other areas of the Strip, but the number of casualties has not yet been confirmed. The massacres in the Palestinian enclave persist, while resistant fighters and Israeli delegates are attending negotiations in Qatar to secure a ceasefire and the release of prisoners. And the Trump administration announced on Wednesday the imposition of sanctions against the UN Special Rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territories, Francesca Albanese. The State Department's decision to sanction Albanese follows the failure of the recent U.S. pressure campaign to force the international body to remove her from office. In this context, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced the sanctions on Wednesday, accusing her of waging a campaign of political and economic warfare against the United States and Israel. Albanese, a human rights lawyer, has spoken out against Israel's ongoing genocide of Palestinians in Gaza. In recent weeks, Albanese has published a series of letters urging other countries to pressure Israel, including through sanctions, to end its deadly bombardment of the Gaza Strip.
And to present my finding, the anatomy of a genocide.
And in the U.S. state of California, 31 workers were safely rescued earlier on Thursday after being trapped for hours due to the collapse of a portion of an industrial tunnel in Wilmington in Los Angeles. The collapse occurred about 9.6 kilometers south of the tunnel's only entrance, trapping 27 construction workers, according to the Los Angeles Fire Department. Following the incident, 4 others went to save their colleagues, but got trapped as well. An hour later, firefighters detailed that 31 construction workers climbed over a roughly 12 to 15-foot pile of dirt to escape, while authorities informed none sustained visible injuries. We now move on to other topics. In Cuba, a strong storm hit Bayamo eastern city in Tuesday evening on July 8th. As a result of the 2-hour torrential rain, several districts have been flooded. Even though forecasts indicated a greater chance of precipitation for Wednesday morning, the storm came early, causing so much rainfall that quickly saturated the city's sewer system. Subsequently, flash floods have occurred in residential areas as Siboney, El Valle, Roberto Reyes, and Antonio Guiteras. In response to this contingency, Granma Province's first secretary of the Cuban Communist Party, Yuelquis Ortiz Barceló, toured the most hit areas. During her visit, the authority urged the population to act responsibly and avoid reckless behavior. The leader further reported that specialized teams have been working on the sewer system. And at this moment, we have a second short break coming up. But before, we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverages, and much more. Follow the page and activate notifications to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break. Don't go away. Welcome welcome back to From the South. We continue with more information. Argentina's public policy experts are warning of the potential loss of over 430,000 jobs following the national government's announcement of the opening of imports. The Fundar Foundation, an Argentinian organization specializing in the design of public policies for development, recently issued a report warning about the risk to the country's industry due to the lack of foreign trade measures. According to the government, imports guarantee competition and access to higher quality products at lower prices. However, this does not take into consideration the national industry or the consequences that this entails. The report states that this would result in a 2.6% drop in production and a 2.2% drop in the economy, as well as job losses in the public and private sectors. And Uruguayan workers propose to apply a 1% tax to the richest 1% of the population to fight child poverty. Our correspondent Mateo Grille with the report.
Fue uno de los anuncios más fuertes del acto del 1 de mayo.
It was one of the strongest announcements of the May 1st Act, and now the workers are doubling the bet. Uruguay's Unified Trade Union Center of Workers proposed to the government the creation of a special 1% tax for the richest 1% of the country, which concentrates half of the national wealth. The aim is to allocate these funds to public policies to combat child poverty. The proposal has again generated debate in the last hours.
La propuesta volvió a generar debate en las últimas horas.
Para nosotros hay un compromiso ético para encontrar herramientas que
For us, there is an ethical commitment to find tools to solve child poverty because child poverty is the expropriation of rights. It is mortgaging the future, and in a country that also has difficulties in its demographic growth, it is shooting itself in the foot.
Para su crecimiento demográfico es pegarse un tiro en el pie.
En Uruguay, la pobreza infantil alcanza el 32.2% de los niños y
In
niñas.
Uruguay, child poverty affects 32.2% of children between the ages of 0 and 6. These rates are double or even triple those of the adult population. If the tax were applied, it would raise close to $800 million a year, which would make it possible to address this injustice. Workers' representatives met with President Orsi, but he reiterated that no new taxes would be created. According to the latest polls, nearly 2/3 of the population supports the proposal.
Según las últimas encuestas, cerca de 2/3 de la población apoya la propuesta.
Estaría bien que el 1% a los grandes.
I believe that 1% would be fine for large businessmen or people who have large amounts of money. I believe that 1% would not affect them.
En grandes caudales creo que un 1% no les incidiría.
Considero es una buena medida. En realidad, el 1% para la
I think it is a good measure. In fact, 1% for the richest population of the country is nothing, not very significant for them, and it can have a very important impact on public policies for children, adolescents, and infants.
Para las niñez, la adolescencia, la infancia. Lo veo bien porque en realidad.
I see it well. In fact, it was enough of taking away, in quotation marks, from those who work, from the population that are also vulnerable. Whether you like it or not, and I believe that in some way a balance can be generated, it seems to me the fairest thing possible.
Se puede generar algún equilibrio, me parece lo más justo, ¿no? Posible.
A pesar de las respuestas del gobierno,
Despite the government's response, workers are coordinating with social organizations and academics to carry out an in-depth study on inequality and its causes.
La pobreza infantil trae problemas luego en el proceso de aprendizaje.
Child poverty leads to problems in the learning process, it leads to problems in social insertion, it leads to problems in economic performance. It is a concatenation, it is like a snowball that grows bigger as time goes by, and that also ruins, steals lives. So for us, the 1% tax for the richest 1% is going to be a central element of the political process of the trade union movement.
Va a ser un elemento central del proceso político del movimiento sindical en este periodo.
En Uruguay, 25.000 personas
In Uruguay, 25,000 people concentrate half of the wealth, a fact that calls for urgent decisions to break inequality.
Mateo Grille, TeleSUR, Montevideo, Uruguay.
And on Wednesday, the Permanent Commission of the Peruvian Congress approved a ruling establishing a general amnesty for military and police officers who were prosecuted between 1980 and the year 2000 for their role in fighting terrorism. According to the report presented by Fernando Rospigliosi, the president of the commission, nearly 1,000 members of the armed forces and national police could benefit from this measure. However, the ruling, which only states that the beneficiaries will not receive a definite sentence, has been rejected by the national and international human rights organizations. The National Human Rights Coordinator warns that up to 750 cases could be dismissed, leaving 156 cases with definite sentences, as well as another 600 ones in progress without justice. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.